If you have been awake lately, you know that we just came through Olympics 2024, Paris 2024. What I want to do today is I just want to share with you three lessons that I got from the Olympics. Now, I didn't watch it all live. Well, I can't really say live because the United States, when we watch it, it's what they want to show us at night, and it's not live then. But still, we recorded those. My wife and I watched some of it just to see what was going on out there. And I got three lessons that I want to give you guys today from the Olympics. Okay. So number one is the Olympics show us the direction of society. The Olympics are supposed to be a time when the whole world comes together and have this unity, and it's supposed to kind of be a snapshot of where we are. I don't know if it's supposed to be that way, but it is a snapshot of where we are. For example, it seems like Russia is always being banned from the Olympics. In 2020 and in 2022, Russia was banned for doping, and this year they were banned because of the invasion of Ukraine. And so what happens is down the line, people can go back and they can read about the Olympics and watch old videos and things, and they can see that kind of a snapshot of what was going on. Well, in those years, Russia had doping going on, and this year there's this invasion of Ukraine. So it's kind of a snapshot of where we are. And so many years down the line, they can look back and see some things about what's going on in the world. But there were two main things that happened in the Olympics that I show us that give a snapshot of where we are as a society today, and it's not necessarily a good one. The first one has to deal with the opening ceremony. Every year, the host country puts on this, or every Olympics, the host country puts on this huge ceremony. And of course, they're always trying to do one better than the one before. So it's just going to keep getting bigger and better in quotation marks like that. So I didn't see much of it. I saw some things, that silvery ghost horse going down the river and things. So I didn't see a whole lot of it. But I watched some of the clips of some of these controversial things later, and I saw this. What all of you have seen probably, it's the famous picture of these drag queens that were. It looks like they're celebrating the Last Supper because of the famous painting, The Last Supper. It looks very, very much like this. You have all these drag queens that are out there, drag queens everywhere, by the way, in this thing. And you have them out there. And now, of course, the IOC says, well, this is not a depiction of the Last Supper. This is just maybe a celebration of the Greek god Dionysus or something like that, right? So, but boy, does it ever look a lot like the famous painting of the Last Supper, which, by the way, has its own problems. That painting isn't very biblical itself. But what it looks like has happened is that the people putting this together wanted to disenfranchise two-thirds of the world's major religions. Jesus was a Jew, so they're and celebrating a Jewish feast, so there goes Jews, and of course Christianity. So what does this have to do with uniting the world, bringing us all in together, right? I mean, this is just crazy that they would do something like this. What they're doing is they're pandering to society today, drag queens, the LGBTQ agenda, things like this. This is being celebrated on the world stage. Why would drag queens be involved in something like this? Drag queen mentality is something like you might have expected years ago, your crazy bachelor weird uncle, he's doing something like this in the back room of his house. And when you find out about it, you go and get him mental help. Okay. Now the stuff is on the scene and it's on the world stage being celebrated at the Olympics. So the whole drag queen thing, really, it's the intersection of moral depravity and mental insanity. Okay. These people need help. And those who are celebrating this, they also need help, spiritual and mental help. Okay. This is kind of a snapshot of where we are. And the second snapshot of that the Olympics show us where society is today has to do with the Olympic Village. You've seen reports probably about this. This was supposed to be the most sustainable Olympics ever, very eco-friendly. Because the changes in climate is going to kill us all soon, and climate change itself is its own it's a very specific term because you can't use global warming or global cooling because then it keeps changing. You got to use climate change because the climate's changing. We're all going to die soon. By the way, biblically, it's not going to happen. Okay, it's not going to happen. Uh, we are supposed to take care of the world, yes, but environmentalism has become a religion of its own. And so they made Olympic Village where the athletes stay this year, and we've read reports about cheap cardboard beds. Some of the Olympians even bringing their own beds in because they want a decent place to sleep because they're competing, for goodness sakes, as an athlete. insufficient food for them, no air conditioning in the rooms. They had this brilliant idea: let's build these buildings in a way where we don't need air conditioning. Well, apparently it didn't work. Okay, smart people aren't as smart as you think they are, but you have to buy into this whole environmentalism and climate change thing because it's so prevalent. You have to buy into it or you're hateful. You want to kill everybody, just like the ridiculous COVID propaganda, right? You don't buy into this, you want to kill everybody, you hate everybody's grandma. It's just so dumb, it's crazy. But this is a snapshot of where we are as society. 50 years down the line, if things get straightened out, which I doubt they will, people look back at the Olympics and say, oh, those people were really weird in 2024, which is exactly the truth. So that's the first lesson that I get from the Olympics this year. The second one has to do with the transgender controversy. Now, it's not so much about the transgender controversy as how we're supposed to process through this. And so, you probably have seen, let me get this picture here, Emain Khalif. Now, there was another person in a similar situation, but this is the one that we usually see. Emain Khalif is a boxer who in the past has been barred from international competition by the boxing authorities for having XY male chromosomes, but fighting as a female. Okay. Also elevated testosterone. And this was brought to the forefront at the Olympics, where one of the competitors was fighting against Emain and just bowed out. So I was hit so hard. I've never been hit this hard in my life. And this is a boxer. Okay. So there are some lessons in this that we need to take with us. And the first one actually goes along with the previous point, where the Olympics give us a snapshot of where we are as a society. There's a few things about that. First of all, women boxing. I mean, it's to think of women boxing. Whatever happened to a female femininity? Our culture is trying to make men softer and women harder, and we just whatever happened to the men being the protectors and the strong people. We have this blurring of genders that's going on, and we're losing a lot of that because a lot of that is biblical. It used to be you're a man, deal with it. You're a woman, deal with it. That's the way you're born. Nothing you can do about it. But now, if I don't like it, I can change it. If I feel different, or if I do some kind of mutilation surgery, I can change it. So the fact that this is even a controversy is a big deal because we're all on one side or another, right? Our society knows because we hear about this all the time. So as soon as people hear about this, they're saying, well, I don't believe a man should be in a woman's sport. And others be like, well, I believe it's okay. So you have all this going on. It shows where we are as society, where this is top front page headline news right here. But really, my main point for bringing this up really has nothing to do with the gender controversy as such, but it has everything to do with how we process through things like this that we hear about. So what I'm going to do to kind of share this lesson with you is to show you my thought process as I heard about this and studied it out, because I think it teaches us a lesson about how to deal with things that we hear. We want to find out whether it's true or not. So my immediate response when I heard about this is, what? There's a headline. There's a man in the female boxing arena. This absolutely should not happen. I know this is my immediate gut thought, which I've seen from other people on Facebook. Again, we know what's going on. Men trying to get in women's sports, like Leah Thomas, or so called. This man who wanted to swim with a woman. This is crazy. This is ridiculous. Why you can't win against the men? So you got to do it against the women. And so we hear these kind of things, and immediately we think, because the way the headlines were, here's a man had transitioned to female, at least tried to, and he wants to do that. That's tempting. But as we look in this a little bit, we find out that's not the case. So the immediate response is, should not be. Okay. But my second response is, okay, let me check this out. And this is where we start to understand our lesson here. We need to stop and think about things and check them out. Okay. So I said, let me check this out. I could not find one reputable online source that said that Emain had transitioned from a man to a woman. Everything seems to indicate that Emain was born as a female. Now, the term they will use is assigned. When you hear somebody say, well, somebody was assigned male or female at birth, that's a code word there, meaning not that they were born male or female, but that somebody said, oh, you look like what has generally been known as a female, so I'm going to call you female. And maybe one day that can be changed. Okay. So that's the term you use. But everything I've seen indicates that when Emaine was born, the doctors looked at this baby and said, wow, this is a female. Again, we don't know exactly what that looked like. I haven't read doctors' reports, seen pictures. Obviously, I don't have any interest in that. But they say that Emaine was born, obviously, hey, this is a female, and found out later that this child had what is called DSD. Maybe it's gone by other terms before, but that's differences in sex development, where a person begins to manifest different genders than what they really are, which is very rare, of course. So this is what we learn when we go through the thought process. Number one, my immediate reaction. Let's hold off on that. Let's study it out. Let's find out what's going on. Let me check this out, which leads us to the third response. And this happened fairly quickly for me. I think, okay, if this is true, poor girl who's born and is a girl, and suddenly this something starts to happen where there's elevated testosterone and there's XY chromosomes now found because they may not have tested for that as a baby. Well, now, wait a minute here, what's going on? Which brings us to the question of what should be the determining factor whether someone is a male or female. Should it be what's in their passport? Should it be male or female external body parts? Should it be male or female internal body parts? What does Emaine have here? So these are the questions. If this is a girl who suddenly, oh no, I'm a boy, maybe we should feel sorry. Which of course brings me to my fourth response to this, which should be we need more information. There are some things we do not know. My gut feeling is, wow, this person seems to indicate being alive as a man. My first thought when I look at the picture, wow, that literally looks like a man, right? And if so, should not be allowed anywhere in this arena. But there are some things we don't know. Where along the line did Emaine start to say something's not right here? Was it like that when this person was born and they just chose female because they couldn't tell? Sometimes this very rare thing happens. At puberty, did something happen? Did male parts start to appear? I've heard maybe that's a possibility in these kind of situations. I simply don't know what's going on. If it was a situation where Emaine and the people around this person were saying, well, we have an advantage now. This is actually a man, but we're going to keep fighting as women. That's wrong. Okay. But we don't know. So my point in this isn't so much whether this person should have been fighting or not, whether it's a male or female. But the reason I bring this up is because other than it shows where we are as a society with the whole transgender revolution, my point is how we deal with things that we hear about. Okay. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 18:13, he who answers a matter before he hears it, it is folly and shame to him. I'm not saying that if you say that Emaine is a man, that you're folly and foolish. No, that very well may be the case. I'm just using this, hopefully understand, to work out how do we deal with things that we hear before we jump all over it. Okay. What do we do about these things? It's so easy to jump on a bandwagon. We should look at something. We say, okay, what is the truth about the situation? And then make a decision based on that. There was a situation recently that really makes this clear, and that is dealing with the Trump attempted assassination, where there was a story that was going around on some wacko chat room or something. There was somebody that had posted, they said, well, I was a Secret Service agent. I had the perpetrator in my sights and I was told to stand down, not allowed to shoot. And then he shot at Trump and then I shot him and got fired for it. Okay. That was a story. People were saying, wow, there was this agent that wasn't allowed to kill this perpetrator. The problem is, can't find anything that says this was actually true. This seems to have been fake, but people were jumping all over it. My point is, when you hear about something, stop and think about it a little bit. That's a lesson that we all should have. We don't want to look like fools. We want to have all our ducks in a row. We want to have all the wisdom that we can have. So when someone comes and questions us, that we have at least some kind of an answer. At least so we've thought through it. We could be wrong, but we should at least think through things a little bit. Unfortunately, sometimes Christians are notoriously bad at that because we're conservative, right? We want to stand up and say, well, that's not right. Let's make sure that we know what we're talking about so we don't look like fools. Okay. So the first lesson is, yes, the Olympics show where we are as a society. Second lesson is, let's stop and think about things first. And number three, this was not so controversial probably, but it's a lesson that every Christian should recognize. And that we can sum it up in a question: is it worth it? Is it worth it? I preached on this a couple of weeks ago in our church, right around Olympic time, because when you think about people who give their lives to their sport, Olympians, They invest so much in what they're doing. Many of them give up their childhood. Sometimes parents go into bankruptcy. They give up funds. Why? Because there is something they want. They want the gold medal. They want to be at the top of the podium. That's what they're going through. And sometimes we think of it, this is a sacrifice, but they might not think of it so much like a sacrifice. They have chosen the path because at the end of this path is something that I want. So they don't think about a sacrifice being what I don't get on the other path. This is the direction I want to go, and I want to get what's at the other end of it. You know the name Simone Biles, controversial figure a little bit herself. Good gymnast, yes, but there's other things. Very seems, I heard that she's donating $4 million to Kamala Harris. Again, I heard that. That's not a fact yet, right? So you got to check all these things out. But she and Allie Reisman were, a few years ago, both won. They won gold and silver in the gymnastics all around at the Olympics a few years ago. And they were being interviewed, and the reporter asked Allie about the sacrifice she had made to become such a good gymnast. And her response was, it wasn't really a sacrifice because we love our sport. See, they see something on the end. This is the direction I want to go. I'm not sacrificing. This is just what I have to do to get to the thing that I want. And so, as Christians, we kind of have the same situation. We have two paths. We can go this way and enjoy the things of this life, whatever we want to do. But what's at the end? The displeasure of God, lost rewards, right? Or we can go this way where I might not, but they have all that fun stuff that I want on that side. But the end of this is the pleasure of God and his rewards of God. That's the direction I want to go. But we often think of, I'm sacrificing because, I'm sacrificing Sunday mornings. I got to go to church instead of going to the park. Or I'm sacrificing this career that I want to have. I'm sacrificing, poor me, woe is me. I'm sacrificing all this. No, what we're doing is we're saying, I have two paths. The end of this one over here, that's what I want. So I'm going that way. So maybe we throw this word sacrifice around too much. Maybe some of these things aren't sacrifices. I want to read something that Jesus said here in Luke chapter 14. And now great multitudes went with him, and he turned and said to them, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. So Jesus is saying, look, you have to decide, what do you want? Do you want to be my disciple? Go this way. And don't keep whining about sacrificing things, because if you go that path, you can't be my disciple. If you want to be my disciple, this is the way to go. This is how you have to get it. So as Christians, we're at a crossroads here. Which path leads to what I want? And I choose this one, means I'm not sacrificing necessarily those other things. I'm just doing what's going to take to get where I want to be. So our three lessons from the Olympics. Number one, our society is in a state of serious moral degradation, and it's shown in the Olympics. Number two, we need to think when we hear things before taking sides on a matter. Study it out, find out what's going on. Number three, ask yourself a question. Is it worth it for me to be a disciple of Jesus Christ? There's our three lessons for the Olympics. I hope you join me next time, and I will see you then. God bless. Have a great week.